This winter, more than ever, with COVID-19 still circulating, we need help to reduce all avoidable risks. You can help protect the NHS, social care and loved ones by getting the flu vaccine. You may be eligible for the free vaccine at your GP or local pharmacy if you are over 65, pregnant or have a long-term condition. Find out if you are eligible at nhs.uk/staywell. Children up to Year 7 can get the free nasal spray at school or through their GP if they are below school age. If you are not eligible for the free vaccine, you can pay for it at your local pharmacy. The flu vaccination does not give you flu. It reduces the risk of catching flu, as well as spreading it to others. If you had the vaccination in the past, that will not protect you as the flu strain changes every year, so you need to have a new one this year. It is also important to wash your hands often with warm water and soap. Use tissues when you cough or sneeze, and bin used tissues as quickly as possible. Thank you for helping to protect yourself and loved ones this winter.
I can really recommend being a foster carer for Notts County Council. There's always someone walking the journey alongside you, whether that's other foster carers or social workers. It really helps to provide stability and consistency for children who really need it, and that's really rewarding as a foster carer.
Roger and I have been fostering for 35 years. We do deal with challenges, but to say we've been doing it for 35 years to me proves that it's not impossible. We learn an awful lot from these young people, and even now we're still learning.
As a foster family, we care, we want to make a difference, and we get so much fulfilment from fostering. The satisfaction of making a difference is something that money can't buy. Just seeing the smiles on the children's faces and helping them reach their potential is wonderful.
We work as family workers within the fostering service for Nottinghamshire County Council.
I really enjoy my work. I really enjoy meeting lots of different foster carers.
You know, we get to know the families, we get to know the kids, and we care basically. It's important as it is to them that the kids are getting the support that they need.
A lot of people said to me they would like to be a foster carer, but there's something stopping them. I had that as well. And we decided just to jump in and do it and see what happened. And for us, it's been the best decision we've ever made.
It's been a fantastic decision, it really has, yes.
Once people start to become a foster carer and take that leap to do it, they'll understand how much it gives back, not just to the child, but how much it empowers you as well.
I'm Leon, I'm a care leaver, and I've been in care since I was 8. I've been with the same parents since, and they're amazing. Like, they are my foster parents, but I do class them as my parents, my mum and dad. All a child wants really from a family is to be supported, loved and cared for, and know they're there because they're wanted. From personal experience, I know the difference it's made for my life.
We always say that we foster as a whole family. It's not just us who are the carers, our children are involved in that. And even now, people express concern about the effect on our birth children of foster caring. I think we need to kind of get past that and dispel that myth, because actually the overall effect on our children, I think, is positive. They're learning new skills, they're gaining empathy, they're interacting with children from different backgrounds. For a long time we didn't make use of support care, and we wanted our child to settle into our placement and not feel pushed out, but it's actually been really helpful for us to start to have support care.
We've known Zoe for a number of years, and it's meant that we got to know her foster child. So for her it's been like coming for a sleepover rather than a feeling she's coming to another family. I got into fostering for Notts County Council, and it was something that I've always wanted to do, but working full time and my husband also working full time, we thought it's not really going to be something we can do now. But after looking at the website, we realised there was this wonderful thing called support care that we were able to offer. It might surprise you, but actually I'm under 30, I don't have any children of my own, and that doesn't stop you from being a foster carer.
I think some people don't go into foster care because they think it's going to be really costly to have another child living in their house, but actually the fostering allowance is generous enough to cover all the costs of having a child living with you.
We have a lot of fun on the weekends when we have foster children in. We get to go to parks, ice skating, children's events, trampoline in parks like I Jump.
We get access to the Max card, which is a discount card for foster carers and their children to access different local amenities. Also recently we went on holiday, we were able to use the Max card to get free access to some castles and historical places because it's a national initiative.
We chose to go with Notts County Council because of the support care that was offered and the training. And it's always local to Nottinghamshire. My parents are foster carers for an agency, and they found it really difficult to get support care for their child.
My name's Lynn. I am now a support foster carer. We were mainstream carers, but given our ages, we felt that we couldn't commit to children for long terms anymore. We just find it really rewarding, the relationships we build up with these young people, and we feel we're perhaps a bit like grandparents to them. With the children coming here for weekends, this enables their mainstream carers to have a break, and this makes things more secure perhaps for the children to continue there. I work with my supervising social worker to sort out the dates. She comes out to see us every month, and it's all very relaxed. I find Robin really easy to speak to. She listens to my concerns, and I value what she is saying to me in return.
The benefits of a supervising social worker are always having someone to contact. There is also emergency duty team that they can contact on a weekend and out of hours. I think the times that it gets difficult is when, she's supported a child for a long time and then they're either moving on out of area or they're moving on because they've reached the age of 18, and she has to say goodbye to that child, so that can be always emotionally draining. Generally it's staying in touch so they know that you do care about them and you are concerned, that the impact that something like that has had on them.
You do feel fully supported. It's like working in a team. We still even now go on training sessions. I almost look forward to those sessions because you meet other foster carers there and it's very interesting. I've always fostered with my husband, who's brilliant, and I feel personally I couldn't do it without him. He's super with the kids, and it's just something we continue to enjoy doing. A lot of our friends feel at the ages we are, we shouldn't be doing it, but it's a way of life for us now.
I'm Mark, I'm a foster carer daddy in the family. I'm the fun dad, if you like. I've tried to be anyway,
And I'm Amy, a foster carer. So we have 4 children of our own, and then we foster younger children into our family. Being a foster carer is a devastating privilege. It's devastating that children have to be in this situation, and yet what a privilege that we are able to help them.
Yeah.
When you foster as a family. I think it's very important that everybody in your house is involved, and even though we have 4 children of our own, we don't find that a challenge, we find that quite an easy thing to do. Daniel particularly, he's older and he sees more and he understands more because he's older, and he feels that it's given him an insight as to when he's older and he has his own children. Whenever a placement ends, we always ask them, do you want to do it again? Would you like another child? And it's always yes. And even though we've had the sadness maybe of a child leaving, and they are sad when a child leaves, the positive that we get out of it, they get to see, as we do, the happiness when a child leaves us, and that inspires them as well to want to do it again and again and again, as well as us.
When a child leaves, it's sad for us, but it's happy for them.
The biggest thing for us has been the support network, because if it wasn't for them, I don't think we would be able to carry on. I think it's a big, big thing to know that there's always someone there if you've ever got problems. And for our children, they really enjoy the events that we attend. We've been quite surprised at actually the amount of events there are.
Barbecues and picnics and
local supports
groups. And Foster's Got Talent. We've been to the Christmas do's and the Sons and Daughters events here today are fantastic for our children. They really enjoy it, and I think it's a lovely thing for them to do.
And it's very empowering for them to know that they're appreciated as a child in a foster family.
We are allocated to new foster carers so that we can give them support and advice before they get their new placement. So we might go out and give them some advice around therapeutic parenting and kind of build up their foster carer toolkit before they begin.
Yeah, and we've got an idea of obviously the child who's being placed with them, so that we can tell them some background about that particular child.
We find that children that have experienced trauma or have attachment needs are more responsive to therapeutic parenting than your average parenting. So that's very much what we encourage our foster carers to do.
Theraplay is obviously a form of therapeutic parenting. A lot of the foster children, their early life experiences of being quite sad, really. They haven't had any compliments. Nobody's ever said that they've got nice eyes. Nobody's said that the hair's nice. So that is something that we always start off to build their self-esteem.
Yeah, there's lots of nurturing activities, so tactile, skin to skin contact, eye contact. We'll offer nurture in positive ways, introduce it slowly, so we might do touch with a feather, maybe feather face painting.
One of the main purposes of Theraplay is for them to achieve, so we always want them to do really well. And we adapt the games depending on the age and the abilities of the children. When I go out and visit foster parents and explain what therapeutic parenting is, it's as if a light bulb just turns on in the head.
I think because we visit regularly, we go back and get the chance to go over what we talked about last week and see if they've tried it out and if it worked, and like you said, that you've had that light bulb, oh, I tried what you said and what, it worked.
I'm Gemma and this is my husband Paul, and we're both foster carers. I think initially we were a little bit anxious ourselves about going to panel. It sounded quite scary, but it wasn't at all. It was just a really friendly chit chat with a group of people around a table. It was more of a celebration really of us being there and of us, wanting to become foster carers. The County Council offer a fair rate of pay, so we get paid dependent on our level of experience. So after you've done it for a while, then your level of pay will go up based on your experience and level of training that you've done. We've also got a network hub, which is a foster carer support group, and it's just an informal get-together. We feel so valued as a foster carer for Nottinghamshire County Council. Everyone's so caring and wants what's best for you as a family. The matching process is really careful, so they listen to our needs and, they would never think of placing a child that wouldn't fit in our environment. As a foster family, we try and just make it everyday, normal life, try and bring some stability and love to that child that's staying with us and give them experiences that perhaps they've not experienced.
and we hope that Councillor Saddington will be joining us shortly. Today, the officers that are present, well, can I start off by saying there is one who is not present today, and that's the Corporate Director, Colin Pettigrew. As some of you may know, Colin's father passed away recently, and today is the funeral of his father up in up in Scotland, I think near Glasgow. So I'm sure all our thoughts and prayers are with Colin today on what's going to be a very difficult day for him, I am sure. So with us this morning, Service Director for Education, Learning and Skills, Marion Clay, Service Director for Youth, Families and Social Work, Steve Edwards, and Service Director for Commissioning and Resources, Lawrence Jones. And the clerk to the meeting, as usual, is Martin Gately. This is the 4th virtual meeting of the Children and Young People's Committee to be held in line with the new requirements of the Coronavirus Act 2020. And please do bear with us if we experience any technical issues. If we do lose members from the call temporarily, then officers will seek to assist in getting them reconnected as soon as possible, hopefully without the need to halt the proceedings. However, last week there were a couple of occasions when I dropped out of meetings for no apparent reason, and you have to, I've had to shut down the computer and reboot, and it can get well over 5 minutes, if not longer. So I'm sure you would bear with me if that happens today. I'm hoping that it won't. But if we do have to, then we will temporarily pause or adjourn the meeting. It is helpful to me if you have your cameras switched on so that I can see you. We are small enough as a committee for me to be able to see you. And if you want to speak, to put your hands up rather than doing the hand signal. That's everybody except Muriel. I can only see a little circle of Muriel at the bottom. I don't know whether she's hiding or what, or whether she's even there in reality, but there we are. Okay, if I can move on then, having said all that, minutes of the last meeting held, do I have your approval to sign them as a true record? Yeah, can you indicate, please? Thank you, that's unanimous, I think. Now to the clerk. Apologies for absence, Mr. Gately.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Actually don't have any apologies, but we do have a change of membership. So Councillor Muriel Wise today replaces Councillor Errol Henry, who's on holiday.
Thank you very much. Item number 3, declarations of interest by members and officers, disclosable pecuniary and private interests. Are there any to declare? No. No, thank you very much. So if we can move to the first substantive item on the agenda, which is a report of the Service Director, Youth, Families and Social Work, provision, achievements and progress of the Children in Care Council and participation of children and young people looked after 2019-20. You have the report set out in front of you, and there's one recommendation on page 14 of the booklet, which I am happy to move.
Second that, Chair.
Thank you. Any comments or questions from members? Councillor Plant. You're muted, Liz. Can you...
That?
Yep, that's better.
I think I'd worked that out by now. Anyway,
well, we
yes.
all make that mistake, I'm afraid.
Welcome the report, because I mean we all know the excellent work that the young people looked after team do with our looked after children. Most importantly of all, I think, obviously encouraging them to encourage them to participate in fun activities, as the report says. But most importantly, that through the Children in Care Council, that their voice is heard. I mean, obviously, as a county council, we provide a lot of services for our looked after children, but it's really important that we listen to those children who are actually on the receiving end of those services, and that we listen to what they say, and obviously it affects the services that they are given. So, you know, I know they really do excellent work. I wanted to just ask the question of, it does say that the Children Care Council has managed to meet during the year, but I also know that the Youth Service has been doing some excellent work in our residential homes during the pandemic. I'm wondering if that work is still continuing, and I'm wondering, has the Children Care Council actually met physically, or has that also been some form of a virtual meeting? Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Taylor, do you want to pick that up, because you've been extensively involved in the Children in Care Council?
Yeah, I mean, it's a yes to both, Liz. The youth services workers are still working, both with children who are in private placements, so foster carers, and in some of our residential homes. The Children in Care Council team, I suppose it's partly the nature of the beast that our social workers are still having direct contact with the children, and therefore some of the work that the council has done has been face-to-face as well as remote. One of the references on page 3 is to a film that the young people produced, and I sent out an email link a few weeks ago about that. And that was a piece of work that they've obviously done in person collectively. I don't know if you did get a chance to watch it.
Yeah, it's very good.
It was a very good, it was quite a telling piece about how they view themselves and how they feel that adults and carers sometimes view them. And it was done like an old-fashioned, you know, black and white silent movie. So if you do get a chance, if you haven't seen it, I would look at that. But yes, the work is still continuing at both levels, and a mix of face-to-face and online.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Councillor Peck.
Yes, I agree with Councillor Plant and Councillor Taylor. They've indicated a lot of very good work has gone on over the years to ensure that the voice of young people in care is heard. I'm just wondering at the present time about what we're doing to establish our knowledge about the emotional state of some of these, of many of these young children, because in the present time, during the course of this year, I think it must have been very, very difficult for them, as it is with many people, because of the, and we've got a further lockdown coming up, of course. So I'm just wondering if an officer could give us some feedback on that.
Yeah, Mr. Edwards, do you want to comment on that?
I think his computer might have been restarting, Councillor Owen.
Is there anybody else that can give any answer to Councillor Peck, or shall we ask? Are you?
Or contact me later.
Are you happy to be contacted outside of the meeting, Councillor
Peck? An email will do.
An email. Okay. Thank you very much for that. We've not had these technical difficulties at previous meetings. I don't know what's going wrong. Anyway, if there are no further comments or questions, the report has been moved and seconded. All those in favour, would you please show? Thank you very much. That's carried. Moving on to item number 5 is the Ofsted outcomes inspections of schools autumn 2019 and spring 2020. Again, you have the report in front of you, and there are 3 recommendations set out on page 22, which I am happy to move.
I'll second those, Chair.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? Councillor Peck.
Yeah, I'm pleased to say that the revised Ofsted framework means that inspection teams are looking at a much broader range of areas, including at long last, in my opinion, the off-rolling, the issue of off-rolling, which is something this committee, of course, has discussed a number of times over the years, and also schools entering children for inappropriate examinations. So I'm pleased that the new framework is covering that, and also the broader development of pupils as well. So those are good things, I think, and probably long overdue. Most schools inspected during the 2 terms are good, and that's been the case throughout the county and indeed across the country, that most schools seem to fall in that number 2 category, and very few schools since the framework was changed, well, in fact it was the framework before, very few schools ever seem to get the number 1, the outstanding grade. That's one that is extremely hard to reach, it would appear, for whatever reason, but I do know that there's one school in there which should be congratulated, Chetwynd, which I do know slightly, and that's done very well to move up from a 2 to 1, so that's very good. But I also noticed that there's a school that has moved from 2 down to 4, so that's quite a drop, which is rather concerning. Perhaps an officer could give us some information. I know it's an academy school, but perhaps we could just be updated on that. Most of the schools, as I say, are in 2. Some have moved up from 3 to 2, so they're also to be congratulated. But there's a small number that have dropped from 2 down to requiring improvement. So that's always the case. But I think it's pleasing to say that the vast majority of schools are probably where they're expected to be. But as I say, this school, Hall Park, I think it is, that has gone down to inadequate. That is rather concerning. So if there's an officer that can update us on that, I'd be quite pleased to hear about that, although I'm well aware that it's not a matter for us to put things right in that school.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions on this report? Marion Clay, do you want to comment on Councillor Peck's observations?
The inspection of Hall Park was certainly undertaken under the new framework and was as a result of complaints which Ofsted had received from parents with regard to off-rolling, as you say, alternative provision. Now, what I can confirm is that the CEO, Andy Burns, has telephoned me last week. We always let the academies know, in fact, we let all schools know that they will be included in this report. And I obviously undertook to report back what he has said that the Trust has undertaken. There was only one judgment changed in the inspection. The actual inspection of Hall Park was an unusual one. It focused exclusively on exclusions, vulnerable children, and use of a particular alternative provision. All other grades were unchanged. The inspection did not inspect the quality of teaching and so on and so forth, which remained unchanged and remains good, according to Ofsted. They did not change that. And Andy Burns, the CEO, reported that they have taken urgent action. Councillor Owen did write to the Academy at the time, formally voicing the concern of him and the committee on your behalf. And Burns has reported that they have obviously addressed the concerns that the school has undertaken, that Ofsted identified. And what I can add is that it's interesting that since lockdown, and the easing of lockdown and the increase of families moving to elective home education, Andy Burns did directly contact the elective home education team to discuss some families that we were concerned about who were moving. So there is increased engagement with the Academy Trust. So I can only report back, as you say, it is an academy, it's in the Redhill Trust, and the CEO wanted the committee to be assured that the concerns raised by Ofsted have been addressed.
Thank you.
Okay, there's not a great deal to add to what has just been said. As has been indicated, I did write, as the committee requested me to. I did receive a response from the chairwoman of governors at Hall Park. Shall we say I found it less than helpful? I'll leave it at that, but I found it less than helpful. it all seemed to be our fault, but that's another story. Even though it's an academy, and I didn't think it was appropriate for me to respond further to that. I think the points we'd made in our letter had clearly hit home. I take your point, Councillor Peck, about off-rolling. As you said, I think we are as one on this. We have discussed it on numerous occasions, and indeed the whole issue of elective home education, which we know has grown under the lockdown, and I think government will need to come back to this once this awful situation is over. Entry for inappropriate exams. I think, in fairness, you also have to understand that parents can be very demanding in the exams that they want their children to be entered for. In the days when we had tiers of entry, it was a common battle that I certainly fought, where parents were saying to me, you are denying my child the opportunity to achieve their potential if you only put them in for intermediate tier rather than higher tier, or foundation tier rather than intermediate tier. And I suspect in some cases schools take the way out of saying, well, if that's what parents want, it comes with a health warning, but there you are. But it doesn't do the young person any good in the long run. So I know that exams now are not as tiered as they used to be, so that, in my view, has been a help. But it does make it difficult to set exams for the full spectrum from grade 9 down to grade 1. So the report has been moved and seconded. Could I have a show of hands, all those in favour? Thank you very much. Thank you. I think Councillor Saddington has joined us. Are you there, Councillor Saddington? Well, I've got a little picture of her at the bottom of my screen, but...
Yes, I am here. It's taken me over an hour to get connected. The whole computer was upside down, I think. So my apologies, but I'm here.
Good, good. Well, you should live in a more civilized place, I think, and then you perhaps get a better connection, but there we are.
I understand you've not had good connections this
No,
morning.
that's perfectly true. I've had problems as well. Anyway, if we can move on to the next item, which is an update on Nottinghamshire's strategy for improving educational opportunities for all. Again, the report is laid out in front of you with the appropriate appendices, and we have 2 recommendations set out on page 44, which I'm happy to move.
I'll second those, Chair.
Thank you very much. Any comments or questions? Sorry, have I?
Chairman, I think we've missed an item. There's
Oh
an
dear.
item on
I'm getting sorry.
a conference.
I do apologise. I'm getting perfectly unintentional, I can assure you. You're quite right. Agenda item number 6.
You never did like that conference, Philip.
It wasn't the conference, Councillor Peck, it was the cost of the conference at all.
Well, there's no Chardonnay on offer this time.
Well, that's why I felt able to go. There may be in my cupboard, but I only drink at a weekend, so I certainly shan't be swigging any during the course of the conference. I'm sorry about that, my mistake. Attendance at the national conference. You can see the report has been set out in front of you. On page 36, we have 2 recommendations, which I move.
And I'll second the correct one.
Right. Any comments or questions? No. Can we move to the vote then? All in favour? Thank you very much. If I can now move on to agenda item 7, I think I've got it right this time. Update on the strategy for improving educational opportunities for all. The 2 recommendations on page 44, which I move, and I think Councillor Taylor, you will second again. Just for,
I will second.
Thank you very much. Any comments or questions? Now, the right place. Councillor Plant.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yes, we fully welcome the report. There are many good good initiatives described in this report. And undoubtedly, the 3 areas that they are focusing on are the crucial areas. Obviously, improving outcomes in early years, developing emotional health and well-being, even more pertinent now, obviously, because of the COVID crisis, and improving pathways into adulthood and employment. And again, even more important in terms of where we are. We know from the report that many special needs children are still not accessing full-time education, either at nursery or reception age. We know from the report that many parents are still not claiming the disability access funding. And we know from the report that only 51% of free school meal children are reaching expected levels of literacy at reception age, which means 49% are not, which is a huge number. And of course, on top of all of this, as I've said again, we've got COVID and the impact of that on all these areas to consider. So what we don't agree with, I'm afraid, is the Second Amendment, which is to bring this report back in 12 months' time. We think that all of the, obviously, a lot of the work in this programme has been affected by COVID, but in terms of what's, what well, again, COVID has affected the most disadvantaged families and disadvantaged areas the most. So we really would like to move an amendment. Now, in terms of doing this virtually, I'm appreciating that I might not be doing it in the right way, but all I want to do is to change the wording on amendment number 2, which says members agree to receive an update report in the next 12 months. I want to change that to 6 months because I think it's crucial that the work going on in this report needs to come back to committee and we need to keep our focus on it. Thank you.
Well, I'm not particularly fussed about that. The feeling was that perhaps it would be better to wait until after this this epidemic, whatever you want to call it, pandemic, was over and we'd settled down again. But I'm quite happy if you want a report in 6 months' time. What I would suggest is that perhaps we make it the first meeting after the election, if the election goes ahead, and do it then.
Yeah,
I'm happy to do that if members want to keep informed. So, are you happy with that, Councillor Plant?
Certainly, yes, thank you.
Okay, fine. Mr. Gately, have you made a note of that?
I have. Could that be formally seconded by someone, please, Chair?
Well, I'm happy to second it. I don't mind.
Very well. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. So, if there are no further comments or questions, can we move to the vote, please?
I think Councillor Wise has got a hand up, Chair.
I can't see that. There's not showing up. Thank you for that. I can't see it on my screen. I can't get Councillor Vice up at all. Councillor Vice, would you like to comment, please?
Yes, thank you. Yes, I agree with Councillor Plant. There's been some excellent work done, particularly in transitional arrangements and so on. The area that does concern me is the support for people where there are sort of anxiety and mental health issues for young people. Certainly in my district, I've come across situations where there's been limited support from CAMHS, and the need for some cognitive behaviour therapy has been acknowledged by the educational psychologists, but the resources for that do seem to be pretty limited. And I wondered if is that because of extra demand or because there's been some cutback in the specialists available. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions from members? Marion Clay, would you like to comment on that?
I need my colleagues to help because it's a very specific question with regard to CAMHS. I might need to follow that up with another service area. My understanding is there has not been a reduction in CAMHS, and that children are accessed. And in fact, I also know of some really interesting examples of schools that have facilitated engagement with CAMHS in school through setting up, big screens, and meetings have taken place with CAMHS in school. So I can't comment on the specific cases that you have. I'm not sure whether Steve or Lawrence can help me. My understanding is there is not a reduction in CAMHS. I do know, though, that there continues to be an increase in request for access to CAMHS. Some of the other programmes that are outlined in this report is about building resilience and capacity at school level, so that there's more wider and more universal access for families before it reaches that that much higher and much more complex areas of need requiring CAMHS. I don't know whether Steve or Lawrence can either contradict me or.
Well, I think I can help. I mean, obviously the local authority is not the commissioner of CAMHS services. That's the clinical commissioning groups. But we do get reports back through the safeguarding partners in terms of how provision's been affected by the pandemic. What the Healthcare Trust who provide the CAMHS services say is that there hasn't been a reduction in available services, although they have been delivering differently. My understanding is that works well for some young people, because some of it's virtual and online, but for others it's probably less effective. So I think there's a mixed picture, really. There is also some anecdotal information that perhaps the CAMHS services are not as available as before, and that people are still waiting some time that they wouldn't wish to wait before getting services. I'm not actually sure that's new. I think that's probably a longer standing issue. But we'll continue to keep an eye on that through the Safeguarding Assurance Improvement Group of the Safeguarding Partners.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
The report has been moved and seconded. All those in favour? Thank you very much. That is carried. Can we move on then to item number 8, which is a report from the Corporate Director Progress on the improving the effectiveness and efficiency of the Children's Services Plan. Recommendation, just one recommendation set out on page 56, which I move.
Second that, Chair.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? Councillor Peck, you've indicated.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yes, I read the report with great interest, and we're obviously well aware of the continuing pressures that the department is under financially. 3.1, 3.2, 3.3 and 3.4 relate to projects to strengthen financial control, but 3 of these are indicated in the report as at risk, and 1 is delayed because of COVID. Now, we obviously all understand the COVID pandemic has had an effect on the department and indeed all departments in the local authority. So I do understand that, but nevertheless, given the budget pressures that CYP has been under for some considerable time for reasons we all understand, these are very important areas, and I just wondered if we could be given some reassurance that these areas that are deemed to be at risk will be progressed as quickly as possible. I know the corporate director isn't here, as you've said, Chair, but I don't know if one of the service directors can give that assurance. If not, I'll just leave it as a statement.
Okay, any other comments or questions? Councillor Plant.
Thank you, Chair. Just to obviously support what Councillor Peck has said, but it does mention in the report that we are supposed to receive a report on this issue, obviously, every 3 months. And obviously, this is the first report we've received since December 2019. And obviously, the financial challenges are not getting any easier. So my question is, again, when will we have a fuller report on this coming back to committee? Thank you.
Right, officer comment, please.
I can help. I believe in terms of the items to risk, we had hoped that there would be some additional funding available and had an indication it would be. Unfortunately, due to the financial issues around COVID, that money isn't available. But we have reached agreement with finance colleagues about how all of those measures will be progressed, and we're confident that within the financial year we'll be back on track with all of those. The budget position is greatly improved outside of the direct costs of COVID and the way that that's changed, the budget position for children's is greatly improved in terms of our forecast for this financial year. We're not far off at all being in a break-even position, although obviously some budgets remain volatile and may be further affected by the new lockdown. So we will have to keep an eye, particularly on the COVID-related costs. In terms of the reports, there has been disruption in terms of it coming back, largely because of COVID and some cancelled committees and some prioritisation of reports over the early summer. So this probably should have come a month earlier, but so I do appreciate that it would have been good to have a report before now. But one will come back early in the new year with an update on all of these items.
Thank you. I think the points, there's nothing else for me to add on that. I think the points have been adequately dealt with. So the recommendation has been moved and seconded. Can I have a show of hands? All those in favour, please? Thank you very much. That's carried. The next item on the agenda, item 9, joint commissioning to address speech, language and communication needs. Again, you have the report in front of you, and there are 2 recommendations set out on page 74 of the committee pack, and I'm happy to move those recommendations.
I'll second those, Chair.
Thank you very much. Any comments or questions? Councillor Plant.
Oh, can you see Councillor Wise as well, Councillor Owen?
I can't see Councillor Wise. No, all I've got is are in a circle at the bottom. Both she and Councillor Saddington. I think it's some issue with the with Teams. Those 2 are proving difficult.
But she is indicating, so I'm just
sorry. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Has she indicated first? Councillor Wise, I'm sorry about this, but there seems to be some issue. Councillor Wise, do you want to?
I'm indicating as well, but
yeah. Right, well, I'm taking, now you've drawn it to my attention. I was going to take Councillor Wise first. Councillor Wise, can we deal with your question, please, first, and then I'll go to Councillor Plant.
You're on mute, Muriel.
Mute. You're muted. Muriel, you're muted.
Yeah. The intention of having a one pathway does seem to be useful. The area that concerns me a little is obviously, as we know, when the children's centres had a universal service, the increase in speech therapy at the centres was quite considerable and did pick up very early speech difficulties. I'm just concerned about whether this will be equally effective, because it seems to me there are quite a number of children who where communication in the family is perhaps not very robust in the early years, you know, up to about 2. So, and sometimes in those situations, children's language is just seen as, well, slightly unusual or quite sweet or a bit different, and parents don't always see that it is, or it might be a significant difficulty when they get to school. So I just wondered if this is going to catch those very early situations where parents don't come forward with a problem. Thank you.
Councillor Plant, do you want to comment?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yes, yeah, I fully support the statement that one service and one pathway should lead to a seamless transition and really improve services. I mean, I think in terms of speech and language delay, it is crucial, obviously, to young children that we recognise that delay for a start, and obviously intervene as early as possible, because without language, children will not be able to take full advantage of obviously their school education, and will probably be behind throughout their school career. So it is crucial that we really get to try and crack this issue. So I am hopeful that there's a seamless, one seamless pathway could do that. I found the report complicated in terms of the commissioning arrangements. I found that very difficult to follow. But we've got one pilot year first, and then obviously we are looking towards commissioning beyond that. So what I'm wanting to know really is how will we monitor that pilot year? Sort of what success criteria will we have, and how will we know that this seamless service is actually working? So it says in paragraph 18, a point says the council will still have visibility of home talk service provision. I'm just wondering what that visibility means. And my other concern is in terms of the referrals, how are children going to be referred into this service if they are not presumably attending any childcare setting, or they're not attending any children's centre? Because again, the crucial thing is getting in as early as possible. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions from members? Irene, do you want to pick up on those points initially?
Yes, I can do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, just to reassure people, really, this joint commissioning arrangement is kind of early help into targeted. We do have a range of universal services, so our early years practitioners across the board, schools and early years settings, have had extensive speech and language training historically. We have language lead networks, so practitioners get together, share ideas, problems and things like that. Those things are still happening. We still have the Children's Centre service who provide, and they're providing it at the moment virtually, baby little talkers and little talkers, which is very much about getting in there early, promoting good speech and language in the home. We also provide Let's Play, which is in the home, and that's Children's Centre workers. So that captures all those children who aren't necessarily in an early years setting. We also have obviously the Home Talk programme is working really well. People know that they can refer into the Children's Centre service, and that referral will be picked up. Absolutely, identification is key, which is why we've always invested in training, and we will continue to do that. Interestingly, Public Health England issued some guidance at the end of last week, so I've been busily looking at that this morning. And we tick a lot of boxes in the guidance, which is fantastic. And it talks very much about universal to specialist services. So the pathway that's in the appendix does talk about some of those universal bits, but doesn't do it in lots and lots of detail. The other way as well that we've kind of missed is healthy family teams. They are absolutely critical in this. So every assessment they have to do with a child, it's at that point that they can refer into this single point of access. Now, that is absolutely critical. Home Talk, most of the referrals come from children's centres and healthy family teams at that 2-year review. So that is something that will continue as well. In terms of commissioning, performance management and targets, we're very lucky that we've got the integrated commissioning hub located in public health. They are commissioning on behalf of CCGs, so we have a voice at the table. We will also be having additional contract management meetings just to look at Home Talk, which is what we have this financial year, and we will continue to do that going forward. So we can influence, we can challenge, and we can review the budget separately as well.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that. Well, I'm glad that everybody now appears to be on board, because when we first started to look at this service earlier on in the year, I was painted as the devil incarnate for wanting to make changes, and the usual pressure groups chimed up. What I would point out is that Nottinghamshire County Council will be adding an extra £500,000 to the existing contract for 2021-22 and subsequent years for the delivery of Home Talk. And the current arrangements to locate all of the work in one team has already proved to be successful with the new integrated pathway and triage system in place, which means that children are accessing the best service to meet their needs, whether it be the early help Home Talk programme or specialist therapy. So I think this is a win-win, quite frankly. It really is a win-win. It's an improvement of the service. It's more efficient. So I'm glad you've come round to our way of thinking. Anyway, the report has been moved and seconded. All those in favour? Thank you very much. That is carried. If I can move on then to the next item, which is item number 10, which is changes to staffing, the staffing establishment in the Youth Justice Service. You have the report in front of you. The recommendation is set out on page 81 of the report, which I'm happy to move.
Happy to second, Chair.
Any comments or questions? Happy to go to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you very much. Next item is the changes to the staffing establishment in the Service Improvement Group. Again, the report in front of you, 2 recommendations this time set out on page 85, which I'm happy to move.
Second those, Chair.
Happy to go straight to the vote. Okay, all those in favour? Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda, the local authority governor appointments to school governing bodies during the period 13th February to the 27th of September. Again, you have the report, 1 recommendation on page 90, which I move.
Second that, Chair.
Happy to go straight to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you very much. We move then to item number 13, sexual abuse and harmful sexual behaviour involving children in care. There is a recommendation on page 95, which I move.
Second that, Chair.
Before I open this up for discussion, can I remind you that there is an exempt item on this particular report at the back of the paper. So whilst I wanted to put as much in the public domain and in front of the committee as possible, I would ask that if you want to talk about specific detail or you are wanting further detail, you leave that until we get to that exempt item rather than discuss it publicly. But I thought, in view of what we've had to go through, well, certainly what I've had to go through with ICSA, that it was important that we put as much in front of the committee and in front of the media. I'm not shying away from it as is humanly possible, and that's what we are doing this morning. So the report has been moved and seconded. I'm opening this part of the report for any comments or questions. No, in that case, can we take a vote on the report? All those in favour? Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is the work programme, which I'm happy to move.
Second that, Chair.
Thank you. All those, Councillor Plant, you want to?
Yeah. Yes, thank you, Chair. I mean, I would actually, well, the Labour Group would actually like to ask for a report on child and family poverty to go onto the work programme. Obviously, this is not a new issue. It's something, you know, we have had 10 years of austerity that have certainly not helped many disadvantaged families, but it's all again being exacerbated by the COVID-19 pandemic. I know there's a lot of information on this issue within the County Council, and I do feel that, you know, as the Children and Young People's Committee, it would be helpful for us to have a view of that and how obviously our County Council services can obviously improve that situation. Thank you.
Well, I'm happy to ask officers to pull all that information together in a report, but it may take a little time because of the obvious pressures that they are all under. But yeah, I'm not opposed to that, and we can get it out there in the public domain. So with that suggested addition, an unspecified time, can I have a show of hands all happy to accept the work programme? Thank you very much. Right, I now have to move the exclusion of public and press. Mr. Gately, is there anything that I have to read out, or do I just ask you to stop the live streaming?
I think, Chair, if you just ask for the live stream to be stopped, if members are in agreement, then that we move to exclude the public.
Members in agreement? Thank you very much. Can we stop the live streaming now, and I'll wait for confirmation?
Yes, if you could pause for 10 seconds, Chair.